Hello champions, this is Obi Akera and I'm excited to tell you about the worst job interview that I've ever had. I know what you're thinking, I'm a career coach. I wrote a book on interviewing. I teach my clients interviewing. How can I have a bad interview? Well, the reality is that you can't control every interview. There's too many external factors outside of your control for every one of them to go good. A while back, I interviewed with this multinational technology company, and I was pretty excited. I had 3 interviews. The first interview was with the recruiter over the phone. I knocked that one out the park, so that was great. The second interview was with my potential manager, and that was in person within her office. So I thought I did really well on that interview. And at the end of the interview, she said, okay, I'm going to have you interview with one more person, and it was going to be a woman out in Italy. So I said, okay, no problem. The only thing that I need to do is not mess this up. I've done great for the first and second interview. All I have to do is just not mess it up. So the way the setup was going to be was that the woman from Italy was going to call into a conference line, and I, from the US, was going to call into the same conference line. So on the day of the interview, I call into the conference line, she's on there already, and guess what? I find out that this woman is driving. She's actually driving. I can hear all the wind, the wind noise flowing into her phone. All I can hear was shh, but while she was trying to talk over the noise. So she asked me, Obi, can you hear me clearly? And I said, yes, that was half the truth. I had to really, strain my ears just to listen to everything that she was saying, but I went on with the interview. I figured, okay, maybe they're trying to test me. Maybe they're trying to see how much stress I can deal with. Maybe they want to see if I can go with the flow. So I went with the flow. So we continued with the interview. She was asking me questions, she was talking, and I was answering the questions for 10 whole minutes. All I can hear was shh in the background of her driving. And so 10 minutes into the interview, finally the wind noise stops. She decides to stop driving. I hear her getting out of her car, walking up some steps and going into a room. I actually hear the door creak open all the while she's talking and asking me questions. So we finally get to the point that she asked me, so what questions do you have for me? And I said, well, I have a few questions. And I'm excited to ask my questions because she's in a room now. She can ask, where the background is quiet. So I figured, okay, at this point, she's probably paying attention, because there's no way she was paying attention to me while she was driving. But I think about that in retrospect, but in the moment, I wasn't even thinking about that. So I'm ready to ask my questions, and guess what happens? Her phone cuts off. This interview just went from bad to worse. I couldn't believe it. So I'm there on the conference line waiting. A minute goes by. I figured maybe she's gonna call back into the conference line so we could continue. A minute goes by, I don't hear from her. So I decided, okay, let me email her. I email her, I don't know what happened. I'm still on the conference line. Let's continue with the job interview. I have a couple questions I wanted to ask you about the position. 15 minutes goes by, I don't hear anything back from her until finally she emails me saying, Obi, my phone cut off, just email me your questions. So I said, all right. I email her my questions. I never hear back from her. An hour and a half later, I hear from the recruiter that interviewed me for the first interview. And he, in one simple line, he asked me, how did the interviews go? So I said the second interview went great. This third interview, I'm pretty unsure about because we didn't end the interview formally. I didn't get a chance to ask my questions because her phone cut off. I didn't mention anything about her driving while interviewing me. At the moment, I didn't think that was necessary. So I didn't want to, and I also didn't want to seem like I was complaining about anything. I didn't want any negative vibes going through that email. So I tell him that I still have some questions that I wanted to ask her. She told me to email her my questions. I did, and I'm still waiting to hear back. A day goes by, I hear nothing. A week goes by, I hear nothing still. And that next Friday, I get an email from the recruiter saying, Obi, it was great meeting you, it was great interviewing with you, but unfortunately we're gonna go with someone else. I was so mad because I was really excited about this position. And I thought that I knocked it out the park, and I really thought it was just unfair for this woman to interview me while she was driving. That wasn't, it didn't really give me the chance to really sell myself through the interview. So the reality is that you can't control every interview. There's sometimes some external factors to the interview that you can't do anything about. The only thing you can control is yourself and your behavior and what you say and how you compose yourself during the interview. So that was a lesson that I learned for this interview, and it just goes into my record book of the worst interview that I ever had. For some great tips about interviewing, get my book, From Job Interview to Job Offer, A Quick Guide to Interviewing Success. It's available on Kindle and Amazon.com.